Ve şimdi de Fransa'nın Ankara Büyükelçisi, Ekselansları Sayın Hervé Magro'yu kürsüye davet ediyorum.
Günaydın hepinize. Burada olmaktan çok memnunum. Ama şimdi tabii İngilizceye dönmem gerekiyor. Ne yapalım böyle. Sonra belki CIDE hakkında bir hikayem söyleyeceğim Türkçesi. Ama bakarız vakit varsa. Dear Mr. Dean of the Faculty of Applied Sciences, Mr. Altay Güvenir, Dear Rector of Büyükelçi University, Kurşatay Doğan, Dear Spain Counselor for Tourism, dear Gonzalo Watling, dear academics, students, ladies and gentlemen. I am very pleased to be with you today to discuss the new dynamics of the tourism sector from a French perspective. I will share my views regarding the challenge of tourism diversification and transformation in the post-pandemic era. This is a very important question for our countries, and I think my colleague from Spain already outlined some very important issues, and I'm sure that for the Turkish authorities and the Turkish tourism sector, it is also those questions that we will have to think about. And in a way, I will not say it in Turkish, but I had some problems in Antalya when I had a meeting with the Chamber of Commerce, and I told them that since I was going to CIDE in my childhood, I knew the CIDE without hotels. And then I told them that CIDE is a very good example of a kind of tourism that goes from a very small and very beautiful place where you would go to pensions to I don't know how to describe it now, which is for me a disaster, but I'm sure for Turkey it's a very important thing because this is all-inclusive model with kilometers of hotels, thousands of tourists, completely changed all the economics and the social life of the region. And I told them that, you know, sometimes you need to think about what kind of tourism you want. But then I had an answer, and they published it, and then I had an answer for the Ministry of Tourism the day after, saying that this was a strategy and all of it. But I think now, with the COVID, the pandemics and everything, we need to review this. And we need, as my colleague from Spain said, to think about a different type of tourism. It's very difficult to change from all-inclusive tourism to a more tourist-friendly tourism, but this is a very important issue, and I think Turkey is at the center of this. As you know, bilateral relations between France and Turkey are long-standing, dense, and very strong. And for that, people of each country knows the other, and the tourism industry is an important dimension of our relationship, even though it is not at the level it should be because of the developments in the last years and because of COVID. And for example, the French tourists in Turkey and the tourists and the Turkish tourists in France are not at a very high level. And we are only the 11th nationality when you see at the Turkish statistics, and I think it's almost the same in France. But we share a lot of things in common. The common sense of hospitality, culinary arts. This is part of the success of our countries, and I think I can say also the same thing for my Spanish colleague and Italy, that we are this in common as Mediterranean countries. I know that your university is a member of the Alliance Paul Bocuse, and as you know, Istanbul entered last October for the first time in the Guide Michelin for restoration and restaurants. Since March 2020, the health crisis has caused an unprecedented collapse of global tourism in its intensity and duration. To illustrate this point, as one of the world's leading tourist destinations, France welcomed 90 million foreign tourists, generating a revenue of approximately 60 billion euros in 2019. But in 2020, we counted only on 40 million tourists. That's more than half of what it was before. And the revenues were 30 billion euros, which the same, half of the revenues. So as my colleague said, this is a very important economic activity also, and we know it, and Turkey knows it also. Tourism represented 4.7% of French GDP in 2020 compared to 8.5% before the pandemic. So this is a real issue to see how we can revive this sector. Globally, it is estimated that the COVID-19 crisis cost the world nearly $4 trillion due to the collapse of tourism from 2020. This is, as you can imagine, a huge amount. To face the pandemic crisis, a strategy was needed at the national scale, along with world coordination regarding traveling and sanitary protocols. In this regard, the French government implemented a quick and efficient response to limit the sanitary impact and to support professionals from the tourism industry. More precisely, about 38 billion euros were mobilized in 2020 in the form of solidarity funds, state-guaranteed loans to touristic businesses, part-time employment financing, and a recovery program. A 3 billion euros stimulus package was also launched in May 2020 to complete these measures, with the objective to support the touristic stakeholders during the crisis, but also to initiate their business transformation until 2023. We have been impacted, but we can say that it has resisted relatively better than in other countries. In the first quarter of 2022, among the major tourist destinations, France is the one that has made up the most ground compared to before the health crisis. Spain and Italy are also on the list. They are experiencing, like us, difficulties in recovering for the crisis. Particularly, the difference between those countries and us is the geographical position, which makes them, but our colleague can speak more than I can, more dependent on arrivals by air than we are. In fact, this dynamic has enabled France to become the leading tourist destination in the EU 27 in 2021, ahead for the first time in a long time ahead of Spain. Usually Spain is the first destination in Europe. And travel receipts in France did not return to their 2019 level until May 2022. It means that it took 3 years to come back to almost the level that we had in 2019. So international tourism is still suffering from the crisis, with the persistence of sanitary measures in some countries, and particularly in Asia. And as you know, Asian tourists, and I think in Turkey it's also a good example. Asian tourists were a very important part of this of the tourist economy, and so as you can imagine, we are watching what is going on, in particular in China, and the measures that are taken now. It seems the relief measures that are taken in China, which are very important also for the tourism sector. So now we have to think about the structural changes that were noted in the sector, and highlighted some of them by my colleague. First, remote work and video conferencing have settled in people's habits on an ongoing basis, which slowed down business tourism and questioned the business model of cities' hotels and their need to diversify their activity. Now it's easier to organize a conference by video conference than coming to a country, and this is something that we have to face. In addition, the crisis has reinforced the position of new digital actors, such as booking platforms and digital payment services, and therefore highlighted the increasing importance of tourism data and the need for digital innovation and flexibility within the sector. Sanitary and mobility restrictions have also played in favor of proximity tourism, with more citizens staying in France during holidays, a behavior that might partly persist in the years to come. And I think for Turkey it's also an important thing to have in mind, how to develop the domestic tourism, which in our case, for example, played a very important role in helping to alleviate the consequences of the crisis, because we had less tourists coming from outside, but then the domestic tourism was much higher, with less people traveling to abroad. And I think for Turkey, this is also an important issue to look at, how to develop domestic tourism. And I think that's in your discussions that may be something important. Furthermore, the pandemic raised awareness among a growing segment of consumers regarding the climate impact of tourism habits. One can therefore observe an increasing demand for more sustainable tourism solutions. For instance, slower and greener mobility, such as train or biking trips, and we saw some example in the film that was shown, a desire for more local experience, and the need for the diversification of the touristic offer to adapt to climate change and limit the impact of mass tourism on natural sites. On this, I must say that there should be a difference between European countries and Turkey because of the type of tourism that you have here, and in particular, I think the mass tourism that comes from your big northern neighbor, which I'm not sure the tourists there are on the same, they are more on the sun and sea issue than our European or Western tourists. But this is an issue to take into account, I think, for the attractiveness of Turkish tourism. Those issues will be more and more important to attract European and Western tourists. Acknowledging those current dynamics for the years to come, the French government has taken strong measures to support the tourism sector and initiate a deep change of its model. This unprecedented crisis thus constitutes an opportunity to rethink tourism toward a quality upgraded, digitalized, and greener model, more open to innovation and competitiveness. The main goal is to enhance the industry's resilience, especially in the light of increasing competition with Asian destinations. To this respect, we created a new platform, France Tourisme Observation. It's a French word, so in English it's observation, so it's easy to translate. Created in June 2022, and it will provide a better insight of the sector's evolution by gathering, structuring, and valuing touristic data. As it is essential to rethink French tourism in the long term, the government launched also the Destination France plan in November 2021, setting a 10-year trajectory to develop and transform the sector, ensuring it will carry excellence, growth, and job creation. As you know, the question of job creation is a very important issue. There is a shortage in people. The COVID also had a very big impact on our capacity to recruit. Now the people demand, the workers demand a very different life for themselves. You know that hotels and restoration, this is a difficult job. And now we have more and more problems to find people accepting to do this. And this is also something that we need to think about with the sector, with the representatives of the hotels, with the representative of the restaurants, because we have really a shortage. This is a 1.9 billion euros plan. We wish to grow the leadership of our country as world's foremost visiting destination and become the first destination for sustainable tourism by 2030, especially thanks to the development of what we call slow tourism, ecotourism, and agritourism. Training is also a pillar of the plan. 6 universities are currently organized in centers of excellence, and an information campaign will be launched in the spring of 2023 to promote the jobs in the tourism sector to face the shortage that we are facing today. Finally, Destination France will support innovation within the sector by structuring a travel tech initiative for tourism startups. And we launched last year in Istanbul a French tech which gathers startups and specialists of new techs. And in this framework, we hope a lot to open this also to the tourism sector. It has also almost more than 160 companies now joining this initiative. As climate change challenges particularly reverberates on nature tourism, and especially on mountainous regions, we also launched the Avenir Montagne initiative in May 2021, the Future of Mountains, in order to help mountain tourism shift towards a greener and more diversified model. Such program represents more than 640 million euros of public credit in total, and is expected to generate an investment of 1.8 billion euros in the region at stake. And climate change will have a very big impact on the mountain tourism, of course. It will take time to be able to fully measure the impact of these policies. But some positive outlooks for the sector's recovery can be foreseen, as French tourism demonstrated considerable resilience in the course of these 2 difficult years. In conclusion, let me summarize with a few words. The pandemic has made it essential for tourism stakeholders and decision makers to anticipate the great challenges of our time and rethink the tourism industry. In this respect, your initiative and this forum is an important one, because you are in time, and we all need to think about all those issues. Among others, climate change and digitalization prevail. For now, and in the period to come, tourism will have to show resilience while facing new challenges, starting with the current energy crisis and the increase of prices in the sector. So all those, we will have to face altogether those big challenges. Our countries, as Mediterranean, is a very attractive region, has a lot of means to face it. But I think it's very important that with initiatives like your initiative, we begin to think about this new tourism that is coming in the years to come. Thank you very much. Teşekkür ediyorum. Sağ olun.
Sayın Fransa Büyükelçisi'ne konuşması için teşekkür ediyoruz.